Hello and welcome to Nana's Crafty Home. My name is Tanya. Today's tutorial is going to show you the mattress stitch. This stitch is used to sew, crochet, or knit projects together. You can use this for standard crochet, knit projects, as well as Tunisian crochet. This join method creates a flat seam without any added bulk, and it is invisible. It looks great from both sides, so that makes your project more reversible than it might be with other join methods. And this method is perfect for joining any type of square, granny squares, or other types of squares. This is great method for seaming hats. When you're working a hat side to side and you have that seam in the back, you're going to use this method most typically because it is invisible and it creates a flat seam. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a tapestry needle. Tapestry needles typically have a larger eye so that you can fit yarn through it, and they're typically blunt. Generally, you would want to use the yarn that's the same color as your project in order to get as invisible a join as possible. So if I were doing this and wanted a nice looking finished product, I would use the same yarn in order to join. But because I want you to be able to see the stitches more clearly, I am using a contrasting color. But even with that contrasting color, you'll see just how invisible this method can be. So I have my squares with the right side facing out of both of these squares, the wrong sides facing each other. To get started, I'm going to go ahead and place the squares together, lining up my stitches. And I'm going to come in with my needle, and I'm going to insert that needle underneath the top of that stitch, underneath both of the loops at the top of that stitch, that V, and pull through, leaving a tail long enough to weave in at the end. Then working directly across from that same stitch, I'm going to come from the wrong side again, underneath those two loops, and pull my needle through. I'm going to keep my stitches somewhat loose here. Then coming across, I'm going to be working in that stitch right next to the one that I just worked, inserting my needle from the wrong side to the right side underneath that V at the top of that stitch and pulling my needle through. Working on the other side directly across from that stitch, inserting from the wrong side to the right side again and pulling my needle through. Coming back over to this side underneath those two loops, directly across underneath those two loops, and now we're ready to tighten this down so you can see just how invisible this seam is. We're just going to gently pull and you can see how invisible that seam is. You can still see some yellow poking through underneath, but even with that contrasting color, you can see how invisible it would be if I were using the same color of yarn. You wouldn't even see that seam at all. And it's completely flat. There's no added bulk on this side. On the back side, flat, no added bulk, and it looks good from both sides of your work. So you would just continue using that same method all the way down your seam. I hope you found this tutorial helpful today. Thanks so much for being with me. As always, remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you never miss a new video. Thanks everyone. I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.